Hi everybody, and welcome back to another coloring adventure with CLAldridge Art. I am Christine Aldridge, and I am in fact CLAldridge Art. And I wanted to continue on with a project that we had been working on that we started on our Sunday stream, but I also wanted to show off, excuse me, this absolutely lovely belated birthday gift that I received from my friend Jill B. And Jill is a poet, and she's very talented, and she is also a crafter. And anytime I get a little package from her, it is just such a delight. This year, she has handmade this beautiful card, and it has an original poem on it, and I'll read it for you. It says, "Forever entwined together are we, those who walk on the land, those that dwell in the sea. And the songs of the whale which they sing in the deep become mystical dreams that we find in our sleep." And that's by Jill Blythe, which is Jill B. Some of you know her from chat. She was here on Sunday, and there was a lovely little birthday gift tucked inside here. There's also some lovely message, but I won't read that to you because it's more personal. But Jill also makes these very, very cool book projects, crafting book projects. Now, this is one that she'd sent me last year on my birthday, and it's just full of all sorts of wonderful little memory evoking things. There's little magazine clippings. There's pretty, look at these. These are beautiful like spring decorations that you can hang. And so I was just delighted to see that she had sent me another book. And the presentation on this is just gorgeous. Beautiful ribbon. It's got a beautiful piece of lacy fabric that it's wrapped in. But wait until you see. This is so cool. It's got this lovely blue ribbon, and you undo it. I had to read the directions to figure it out, but it is what's called a star book, and you open it up like this and tie the pieces, and then it sits on your like your table. But this has, and I didn't realize that this also is an original poem by Jill. And it's, "The Lord sends an angel from heaven to awaken the slumbering earth, to proclaim the season of spring and begin all of nature's rebirth. So the sun shall shine more brightly, and the insects begin to emerge." And look at these beautiful papers. "Then the green plants appear, butterflies flutter near, and the fruits and the flowers are here. So the Lord gives the seasons, each with beauty its own, and through all of creation makes his glory known." Jill Blythe. Isn't that a beautiful gift? I just, the papers, I don't know if she makes the papers, if she stamps them, or if they come this way, but I suspect that she stamps them and makes all of this. And this is just a beautiful, precious gift. It is going to go in my box of treasures, which is, of course, where I keep this one. And Jill, thank you very, very much. What a lovely thing to have done. We'll tie that back up and put it all sort of back together with this and this. I'll put it away later. So the next thing up is our little dragon that we started on Sunday's stream. Now, if you weren't here for Sunday's stream, let me introduce you to George Cornelius Nightwalker. Those were the names that were the primary ones that were given by the audience participation. And you will find him in my Etsy shop under the What Ya Doin' Dragon. His name is the What Ya Doin' Dragon. He is in the new art section of the shop. Look for a link below. And when we were coloring him, we decided under influence to color him purple and pink. Or purple, actually. We were making a purple dragon. And we left him pretty much this light shade over here when we ran out of time on Sunday. And so I have been continuing on coloring him and making some decisions as to, how I wanted him to look. Now, one of the things that I did as I was coloring along is I ran a line of the Inktense Deep Blue down the spine. And so the spine was actually this really pretty shade of blue, but against the purple and the pink, it sort of stood out like a sore thumb. So what I did is I used the blue pencil right over the purple, and I sort of blended it in, and I've been putting, different layers. I even put a layer of the white Graphitint on to smooth out the blend. So when you're working with Inktense, don't be afraid to layer colors on top of each other that are complementary. Like, for instance, you wouldn't want to try and layer an orange or something like that because you'd just simply be creating mud because those two colors are not complementary. But a blue over a purple will only make a different shade of purple. And that is really what I've been doing. And I also deepened up, even though I kept using it, I deepened up the mauve color. And I also brought in addition to the violet, I brought in the red violet, which is this pencil here. Now it is deceiving because it's got a much lighter end cap, but that is not really the color. This looks more mauve, but really it's closer to purple, and that is shown here in my swatch book. When you look at this, you've got the red violet, and there's the fuchsia. So you can see how much darker that red violet is. And it's even a different color than the mauve. So where, I just kept deepening up the colors. Now what I'm going for is like a two-tone dragon. One that, when he shifts in the light, he goes from blue to purple to pink, dependent upon how the light is catching him. And that is the look that I'm going for with his body. I've also been just very lightly deepening up the colors on his horns. I also decided that I did want to do the jewel on his head and his spike on his head in the blue. And I'm going to be doing his spikes on his body and on the tips of his wings in the blue as well. So I think that will, and I'm also going to do his toenails blue. So they're going to look like glass that's kind of the look I'm going for. Like, like a glass dragon. And at the end, I'm going to make him sparkle with, using the method that I learned from May Brock's over on her channel of the little white dots and then the sparkles. So he's going to be a sparkly guy against the background. Now, I also put in several more layers of the graphitints, and I was laying in a distance background. So I've got, grassy fields here. I use the mountain gray to create some mountains here in the background, to give the illusion of distance. I haven't started on the branch that he's standing on yet, but I wanted to just continue on coloring this and layering and answer a couple of questions also. I went back in and I looked at the stream, at the chat, and I saw that there were a couple of questions that I missed. So we'll get started on this, and I'll get the answers in my notes and be right back. Hi, everybody. I'm back. And one of the first things I want to do is I want to correct another error that I made. And that is that I had given our dragon golden eyes. Now, like the blue, when I first put it on, gold is not going to work on a pink and purple dragon. I would like it if it would, but it's not. So I am instead changing his eyes to green, but I am incorporating the glow, or using the gold, to give the eye a glow. And I did that on this one. Hopefully you can see that. Whoops. Move it up so you can actually see it. And I really like the effect. So I wanted to do the same thing. And what I have in my hand is the Vivid Green pencil, which is the 1330. And I'm just putting a little bit here on the outer edges of his eye. Not a lot, because I'm going to pull it inward. And I don't want to run the risk of losing the glow. Also on the theory that you can always add more, but you can't take it away. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. And I'm leaving some of the yellow glow closer to the iris. And when that dries, I can either add more yellow if I want it to glow a little more, or whatever, but I think green is a much better choice of eyes. I didn't want to do them blue, because then I think that they would just get lost in the rest of the, in the rest of the piece. So, I keep talking about it like it's fine art. It's definitely not fine art. It's just coloring. But I like to make them as good as I can. I'm going to go ahead and add another layer of fuchsia, and I'm just very lightly coloring with the pencil. All I'm doing right now is just deepening up this color so that then I can make some more decisions on exactly where I want my highlights to fall and all of that. I do want to be sure that I am leaving a light space in here, because I can always work color toward that light space. And then I'm also going to add just a little bit of the red violet in here, because I want to play it off against the where the dark purple starts. And how I did the spine is I put the color, the blue color here on the spine, brought it down. Then I added the purple down here and brought it up. And then I put the fuchsia pink along the middle part. And this is, between layers until, as each part dried, then I could see the true color. Because one thing about Inktense is you do have to let it dry completely so that you can see what it is before you proceed to the next step. So I'm adding a little more of the red violet in here. And around the edge of the hot pink. Now I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to add some darker shades in here. I suspect that I will, because I think that this is a little bit too pop of a color, although I kind of like the way it looks with the horns. So this is I've got two different water brushes going. One is larger than the other. This one has a better flow for the larger areas. So I know everybody works with Inktense in a different way. I have a tendency to work with it in the way that Lisa Lackery over at Lackery Art. Now, Lisa was the artist that was contracted to do the Derwent Inktense tin that featured the whale and the undersea, the fish and the whales and all of that. And it's not the tin that's in use right now. I think it was the one before that, or maybe it is, but only on certain sizes of the tins of Inktense. And she layers. She was constantly, in watching because she did a video of her actually drawing and painting the tin that she did for Derwent. And it took a really long time, and she kept layering color and changing color and adding more color and taking color away. And so you do. I mean, this is how you color. This is how I color with Inktense. And as long as you let it dry between layers, you never ever have to worry about your peeling of your paper, because you can just keep adding layers. And if you're light-handed and you don't do something stupid like I did up here, I actually tried to erase a part before it was completely dry, and I did in fact peel the paper, and you can hardly see it, but you can see it on the back side, right here. And what happened is that I peeled the paper up, and rather than panic, I peeled off as much of the damaged area as I could, so that I didn't have a lot of frayed edges. And then I added more color, but the color kept catching on the fibers of the paper, which were then exposed, because when I peeled it, I exposed fibers on the paper. So the way I fixed that is the color was already down on it, but before it could fully dry, I got it really, really wet. I mean, I really soaked it. And then I just kept pressing with the paper towel until it pressed the paper back flat, and it made all of the, and now it's really smooth. You can feel it, but it's, and I'll have to be careful with it when I layer more color on, but and that's why it bled through, because I pulled up the center layer of the paper. So, but you can come back from any problem. Like I said, you know, when I started changing this to blue and deepened it all up, you know, you can keep that. That's one of the things that I really love about the Inktense, is you can just keep layering it. And so if you've got one part that you're waiting to dry, then you just go work on another part. And, you know, like for instance, I haven't done anything with this wing yet, and I can't really go any further, or not, yeah. I can't really go any further with the blue spikes until I deal with this, because what I don't want to do is do the, you know, get the spike absolutely perfect and then end up with color in the middle of it because I got careless. So, just like the other one, I'm just sort of starting out with just a light bit of the color, because I can always add more color. And just like in coloring with your pencils, you know, with your wax and your oil-based pencils, you do want to layer Inktense. And you can, you know, layer them to your heart's content. And it really does give you an eye toward, you know, where you need to add shadow, where you need to maybe leave brightness. If you have an area that you don't want extra color on, you can basically mask it out with your white wax pencil, because then you can stop it from taking additional color. Well, it doesn't stop it all the way, but it helps. It helps to keep it light. So how is everybody today? I should do this one. And let's see here. Okay, so please like and subscribe. And I should let this one run as well. And then you'll all know how to get in touch with me. And like you don't already know how to get in touch with me, hopefully you do. And I have, if you are wondering, I have begun inking this. I started this morning. I only got this far with it before I needed to run out to do something else. And when I came back, I decided that what I really wanted to do was continue on with this. And so that is what we are doing. I am going to go back to that shortly, but so now what I'm doing is I'm just putting it on the very bottom edge and the very, very top edge, being very careful. And this is where I use my smaller water brush, because it doesn't have quite the water flow as the first one, as the bigger one. And so what I do is I use it to sort of activate the ink. And then I run a bead of water down, and you can see it starts to flow together, but it leaves that white space. So it looks like the light is hitting it, like it's a glass spike. And I really didn't want to do the ones on this side because I'm not done deepening up the color, but I just wanted to show you how that worked. I think I can probably do a couple of these up here, because I'm pretty much done with this side. At least until I think that I might need to add something else. So there's another one. And hopefully I'm close enough to where y'all can see that. So now I'm wiping off the color, and then I'm going back and just making this wet so that that will bleed in just a tiny bit, but it'll still leave it looking like there's a light shaft running down it. Okay, and so let's see, go with the next part. Oops, I've got the red violet, and I want the fuchsia, because this is our bright pink part. And once again, I'm not, with this first layer, I'm not too worried about getting it exact. I just want to get some color down on these areas, and then we'll twist and tweak them as we go along. And so I wanted to answer a couple of the questions that had come up. And when I went back and I read the chat from Sunday's stream, there were two questions that I had missed that I could have answered had I seen them. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to be off screen there. And one of the questions that was asked was from Rosemary Hatchett. She wanted to know if I was planning on doing a compilation book. And so I wanted to ask for a clarification if she meant like a best of book with drawings from all 8 of my previous books, or a compilation of, like, or a combination book, like, 2 or 3 volumes all put together in one issue. So I wanted to ask for clarification on that. I do happen to be able to know what my most popular drawings are, which is one of the reasons why I sell PDFs in my Etsy shop, because Etsy keeps track of my sales and can tell me how many of what drawing sold, how many of what book, and that's how I know what my most popular books are. Of course, in addition to the Amazon sales, which also tell me, I can tell you that the most popular book that I have ever done was my very first one, and I suspect that the reason why the numbers on it are so high is because it is the oldest. And I still sell quite a few copies of that one. And then, of course, the youngest book, the new book, is Fabulous Flowers, and that was the one that I released at the end, or actually in, I believe it was August of 2018. It was in time for the Christmas season. So it might have been October of 2018 that I released that one. So if that is what you meant, then I hadn't been planning on one, but I certainly could do one. And, you know, just like Dennis Preston has done with his best of, I could definitely do that. And would be more than happy to. So if that was your question and that is what you want, Rosemary, if you see this, if you could comment, or even if you are not Rosemary and want to weigh in on that, if you think I should do a compilation book of the most popular drawings from, you know, I've got 8 books out, so I could do it, the 5 most popular from each book, and end up with like 40 in a volume. You know, I could certainly do that and would be more than happy to. Now I've switched to the mauve, which is what I used in the wings over here. I did notice that Shannon had suggested that I do a pale pink, and I think that would have been nice until I darkened up the dragon, and now I'm back to sort of wanting to do the darker shades for the wings. And then the other question was from Donna, Coloring with Donna, Coloring with D. And she had a question regarding the Logitech 920 and if it required any special software. And a Logitech 920 is a webcam. It happens to be the webcam that I use. It does all of these nifty things. It zooms in and out. It's got a very clear picture. It is a wonderful camera. It is very affordable. They do make other cameras, but I like the 920. It was a great price point at $49.99 on Amazon. I don't think that was a special price because Logitech has since come out with newer cameras, but the 920 is the workhorse of their camera family, and a lot of streamers use it. And the answer to her question of if you have Windows 7, does it require any special software? When I bought mine, which was late last year, late in 2018, when it comes, it's got a card for the Logitech website, and you go there and you download the right software for your operating system. I also, Donna, use Windows 7. I was offered the opportunity to upgrade when I bought my original computer. It actually was preloaded with Windows 8, which we all know was such a failure. So I made them actually take Windows 8 off of it before I bought it and ship it with Windows 7. Then Windows tried to force us into taking Windows 10. And I did let that automatically upload. I used it for a day, found out that it would not work with my my HP printer software. In other words, I could use Windows 10, but at the time, they had not yet developed the patch that was needed to make it work with the printer that I use. They have since done that, but I waited too long, and so now I can't upgrade to Windows 10 without cost. So I am also using Windows 7. I have the Home Premium Edition, and I have no problem at all with the Logitech camera. and it works just great. So hopefully, Donna, that answers your question. And yeah, I have 2 books right now in the hopper. Of course, the one that I'm working on, and then I also have, I keep promising a travel size edition that I originally had uploaded it. I misformatted it, and I have not yet gotten back to it. I definitely need to do that. I could not release it because the format on it was wrong, and I have figured out how I formatted my first travel book, although I no longer have that computer file for some reason. But I did figure out how to do it, and so I just need to go back in and do it. It's a couple of days work, and I need to do that. Okay, so there are the bare bones of the second wing, and we are looking good. I think that for today, well, maybe not. Maybe I'll do a couple more of I wanted to show you the eyes. I wanted to show you how how I came back from a rip in my paper, and how I've been layering to deepen up color. This is dry enough now that I could actually add another layer of color, so I think that's what I'll do. This time I'm going to grab up the deep blue. I'm going to add a little more around the edge here to define the shadow of his neck where it's coming down. And also going to add a little bit more of the red violet, because that is what is transitioning from the blue to the purple, to the mauve here in the highlight. So I'll add a little more of that. And I'll actually add a little bit of that over here as well, because I'm working the neck up. I'm not using any kind of pressure really. I'm just letting a little bit of the color down onto the, onto the page. Maybe do a little bit more around the edge of this. Because it allows the ink tints to spread. And then, of course, we'll go back to the mauve, which is our lightest shade. This one I am being very light with. And then just as an aside, I'll add just a tiny, tiny bit of the fuchsia pink. Just the very lightest, whispering it on. And then I'll take the biggest part of the water brush, which is the big brush, which is the wettest brush I have. And then just work it so that the colors meld together. Once again, I use a very light touch with the water brush. Just really all I'm seeking to do is just wet the ink at this point and maybe let it flow. This is a very zen thing to do. You know, it really is a very, very calming. And really what I'm doing is I'm just letting the ink do the, you know, do the deciding. And there we go. So I've been watching the Curiosity Ink a little bit this week. And of course, last week, the potter died. And that was very sad because I know that Alex really had his heart set on her seeing the house once he got, you know, the bones of it back together, you know, so that she could see it one more time in the way that it, you know, looked before it got out of control. And it was sad that she didn't get to do that. But one of the decisions, of course, that he has made is that he's going to be donating, you know, he's going to go ahead and sell off the art that he found in the house, but he will be donating half of the proceeds to Mary Bergstrom's estate. And Mary was, of course, the potter and of the potter's house. And I'm just going to add a little bit of the fuchsia here. Try and darken it up so that it more matches the other horn. And he's got an auction house in Canada that's doing it, but it'll be open to international bids. And the auction house has done a video of the art that is just simply amazing, and Alex has it linked on his channel, and the, you know, Curiosity Inc. And I watched it, and you really get the sense of just how talented Mary Bergstrom was, from a, you know, a knowledge of the native clays and how to fire them. She open pit fired them, and you know that is something that you know that's a Native American technique for making pottery, and it's just fascinating to see the way that the clay reacted to the different ways that it was fired. And that, I think what so impressed me about the video that the auction house did is, of course, every piece is well lit. Every piece is a masterpiece under their guideline, you know, under their the way that they filmed it. And it's really, it's enough to bring tears to your eyes to, you know, to think that there was you get a sense that it is art. It is art. It is beautiful art, and you know, good art makes me cry. What can I tell you? And you know good art when you see it because it makes you cry, makes you feel something. So bless his soul for bringing her to the world's attention. Because otherwise she might have just passed in obscurity, but because of Alex Archbold on Curiosity Inc., she is now famous all over the world. You should see the comments and the wonderful, the wonderful people that watch his channel and comment on his live streams. And then, as if that wasn't enough, he unboxed this very cool, the artist who does a ton of promotional concert posters and signs them all. He got a collection of, I don't know, there must be at least 100 originals there. 100 original posters, all signed. Beautiful colors. Now, they're not ancient. They're not old. Most of them aren't old posters. I think the oldest ones date from the 1960s, and some are reprints of the original posters, but they are in fact still signed by the original artist. And I mean, there's Cream posters, there's The Who, there's a bunch of bands that I've never heard of, but they're mostly tour posters, and specific event posters. And they are very, very cool. So that's another cool video to watch. Okay, now, what should we do next? We'll decide that here in a second. I also want to say a huge thank you to Mama Fruit Bat Ann Siggers from over at A Colorful Life, who was kind enough to put my live stream this week, last Sunday, on her community board. And Ann, thank you so much for doing that. I don't know how many people are reading our community boards or not, but since it's been a couple days since the live stream, I can tell you that I have had a large number of new subscribers. And so thank you, Mama Fruit Bat, for all you do for the coloring community and for this artist in particular. You know how much I appreciate you, and I just wanted to say that. Okay, well, what will come next is not going to happen today, but I can show you, while I was watching the pieces to do the edit, to put together where I was, because a few hours had passed since I shut the camera off, I put the pieces together and I watched. And I think that also I continued on a little bit, just continuing to put more layers, darkening up color. I think there'll be one more layer to go on this before we're done with that part, and then I can do the spikes and work on the wings and all of that. So I think what I'll do is I'll continue on. Oh, and I did do the first bit of work on the claws, which I'll zoom back down so that you can actually see those. And I think that does, I left that little bit of shine on his toes. And so I will continue working on the dragon part of it. And I think that in a separate video, when I come back, we'll do the border and the branch that he's standing on. And until we meet to do those parts again, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. And until we meet again, please color something pretty. This is Christine Aldridge signing out. See you soon.